Good morning, children. Today we are going to do a brief revision of what latitudes and longitudes are. And in this lesson, we'll also learn more about the shape of the earth, how to use a globe, and how to locate precise points on the earth. Now, I understand that we have already done this in the previous videos, but please go through this video again because this is more important for your 6th standard portion. Now, we in the previous video we had already discussed that the shape of the earth is like an orange. It bulges out at the equator and flattens out at the poles. Now, this shape is called as the geoid. How is it spelled? It is spelled as Geoid. So what does that mean? The word geoid means earth shaped, shaped like the earth. Now, what is very particular about the shape of the earth is that because it is flatter at the poles and wider at the equator, what do you think will be, which diameter of the earth is going to be longer? Is it going to be at the poles? If you draw the diameter or the circumference from the poles, will it be longer or will it be shorter? Will it be longer at the equator? The diameter and the circumference, is it going to be longer at the equator or is it going to be longer at the poles? So now if you do this at home, you will realize that the diameter and the circumference from the poles, from the North Pole to the South Pole, if you draw the diameter and if you make a circumference around it, you will find that it is slightly lesser than that of the equatorial at the equator. So if you draw the diameter at the equator diameter is going to be longer, and if you draw a circumference around the equator is also going to be longer. So that is the difference you have to, and that is a particular shape. So it's not a proper circle, it is like a geoid. What does the word geoid mean? It means earth shaped. Now we know that the earth rotates around its own axis, and the end points of the axis of the earth are called poles. And you know that the pole which points towards the pole star is called the North Pole, and the pole which is down at the south is called the South Pole, which is the opposite to the North Pole. Now, the model of, we know that globe is the model of the earth. Now, why do we call it the model of the earth? Because it is like a true representation of the earth. It is modeled after the shape of the earth. They have tried to make the globe to look exactly like the shape of the earth as it is seen from space. So when you look at the globe, you can see that it is a 3D image. Alright, it's a 3D model of the earth and it is just like the earth. And a fun fact about the globe is that the oldest globe is still there. It still exists, and it was made in the year 1942 by a German cartographer, Martin Behem. Now, who is a cartographer? Cartographer is a person who makes maps. So, Martin Behem was the first person to make the globe. This was in the year 1492. Later, as time progressed, the Dutch became very famous for making the best globes in the world. And what is a globe? Globe is a three-dimensional model of the earth. And what can you do with it? We can rotate the globe just like it rotates on its tilted axis. And you will see that the globe is usually, the axis is also tilted. So it actually shows how the shape of the earth is. How is it facing the sun? So you can conduct all these experiments at home to find out how the earth actually rotates around its axis, and when it revolves, what could be the position of the earth. Now that is one aspect. Another part of that the globe shows us is the land masses and the water bodies. So it shows the land masses. Do you all remember what the land masses were? Land masses are the continents. So it shows all the continents, and the water bodies are the oceans. So exactly how it is on earth, that is those are the exact proportions and locations, and even the shape that they have of the land masses is exactly the same like it is on earth. Now what do we use the globe for? We use the globe for locating places. And how can we do that? We can do that because we use imaginary lines called the latitudes and the longitudes. I hope you'll remember this concept. I will put the reference videos later on. You all can go back to those videos and learn about it. Now, what are latitudes? Latitudes are horizontal imaginary lines that are drawn across the earth, and it encircles the earth, and these are horizontal lines and are called latitudes. Now, the equator is the central latitude. It is at the center of the earth and it is the longest latitude. Alright, it is directly at the center of the earth. And what happens because of this? The center of the earth, the equator, divides the earth into two parts. Now, these two parts are called as hemispheres. Now, what does the word hemisphere mean? Hemisphere means half sphere. So, what does hemisphere mean? It means half a sphere. So, the equator is dividing the earth into two hemispheres. The part of the earth that is just directly above the equator, that is in the north of the equator, is called the northern hemisphere, and the part of the earth which is in the south of the equator is called the southern hemisphere. And what are longitudes? Longitudes are the imaginary lines that run from the north pole to the south pole. These are the imaginary lines which run along the north pole to the from the north pole to the south pole, and they call the longitudes. And longitudes also divide the earth into two parts, into two spheres, and they're called as the eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere. The line which divides the earth into the eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere is called the prime meridian. So, which is the longitude which divides the earth into two spheres? It is the prime meridian. And what are the spheres that are created by the prime meridian? The western hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. So, this is about just basics of the latitude and longitude, which you have actually already studied. Now, today we are just going to focus on a little more about the latitudes in depth. Now, latitude is an angular distance. It creates an angle between the equator and any place in the north or south of it. So, how is this angle created? The angle is measured in the form of the angle that is created at the center of the earth. Now, you have to remember that latitudes are measured in degrees, because we write every latitude as degree north or degree south, depending on whether it is in the north hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. So, latitudes are measured in degrees. Now, the equator is the 0 degree latitude, and all the latitudes which are on the north of the equator will be written as degree north, and all the latitudes which will be there on the south of the equator will be the degree south. Now, what is so special about this? You have to remember that the equator is the 0 degree latitude. And what about the north pole and the south pole? If you all keep your protractor on the equator, you will see, and if you look for the 90 degrees on it, alright, you will, and then join the dots. If you mark the point and then you join the dots, you will see that it creates a straight angle. It creates a perpendicular angle to the equator. That exactly is the north pole. So, north pole is at the 90 degree north and south pole is in the south at 90 degree south. Now, between these points of 90 degree north and 90 degree south, there are many other latitudes which are drawn on the globe. Now, how are these latitudes drawn? These latitudes are drawn at a distance of 1 degree each. So, what is the distance between each latitude? The distance is 1 degree. So, between every latitude there is a distance of 1 degree. Now, all these latitudes run parallel to each other. They are all parallel, and so they are also known as the parallels of latitude. So, a lot of geometry is coming into geography. So, you need to remember your right angle, you need to remember your parallels, and you also need to remember the parallels so that you can understand the concepts of parallels of latitude, and the 90 degree north being the north pole and the 90 degree south being the south pole. Now, there are some important parallels of latitude that we need to learn about. We have actually learnt about all these in the 5th standard, but please go through the video to remember it better. Now, what are the 4 important parallels of latitude that we learnt about? The Tropic of Cancer, which is in the northern hemisphere. Can you see that it is at 23.5 degree north? There is an error in the diagram. It is not S, it has to be north, N. So, Tropic of Cancer lies to the north of the equator at 23.5 degree north in the northern hemisphere, and just below the equator at 23.5 degrees south, obviously in the southern hemisphere, is the Tropic of Capricorn. So you have two important latitudes which we just saw: Tropic of Cancer 23.5 degree north, Tropic of Capricorn at 23.5 degree south. The next latitude, important latitude for us in the northern hemisphere, is the Arctic Circle, which is at 66.5 degree north of the equator. And similarly, at the south is the 66.5 degree south latitude, which is the Antarctic Circle. Again, there is an error there. It should have been 66.5 degree south, S. So that is how, those are the important latitudes of the parallels of latitude. Now, why are they important? They are important because it helps us to understand why different places on earth receive different amounts of sunlight, and how the amount of sunlight received decides what the climate will be like for that particular region. Now, you have to remember that the earth's axis is tilted. So the part of the earth which is going to face towards the sun is going to receive more heat, and the part of the earth which is away from the sun is going to receive less heat. Apart from that, you also have to remember that the portion of the earth which is at the equator is closest to the sun. So the rays of the sun are going to fall directly in a straight line at the equator, and that is why they are always going to be receiving most sunlight, and they're going to be hotter. So those regions are going to be hotter. And what happens as we move away from the equator to the poles in the north and the south pole? The rays of the sunlight become longer and they become slanting, and so they become cooler. And that is why these places, in as we go away from the equator, as we go to the higher latitudes, we will observe that the weather becomes cooler at those latitudes. Now, this is caused because of the tilting of the axis of the earth and the position at which the latitudes are. Now, the tilt of the axis affects the climate, I have already told you, and it decides the amount of sunlight a particular latitude is going to receive. Now, from April to September, the northern hemisphere faces the sun, as you can see in the image. The northern hemisphere or the north pole is closer to the sun. What about the south pole? The south pole is away from the sun. In fact, it is in the shadow, and so it is going to experience winter season. Why? Because obviously in summer we receive more sunlight, and so that is going to experience summer, and the winter season is going to be experienced in the southern hemisphere because it is away from the sun. Now, in the periods of between October and March, what will happen? Exact opposite. So what is that happening is that the north pole is away from the sun and the south pole is closer to the sun. So now the south pole is receiving more sunlight, so it will have experienced summer season, and the north pole, because it is away from the sun, and you can see it is away from the line of illumination, so it's in the shadow, and that is why it's going to have winter season there. So it's going to experience winter season, and you can see that there's a shadow there. On one side it is bright and light, and the other side is dark. So what does that show? It also causes this phenomena where the southern hemisphere is now going to receive continuous sunlight for their summer seasons, and the winter since the northern hemisphere north pole is experiencing winter season, they will experience darkness. The sun won't even rise during their winter months. So those are the things that that are affected by the latitudes. Because of the latitudes, these are the climatic effects that take place. Now, another important aspect about in the study of latitudes is that there are three heat or temperature zones on Earth, and they are decided on the basis of the distance from the equator. So, how far a place or region is away from the equator decides the heat zone that that place falls in. Now, what are these heat zones? They are the frigid zone, temperate zone, and torrid zone. So if you look at the image, you can see that the North Pole, you can see the frigid zone. The same color is at the South Pole, which is down at the bottom, right? So you have in the North Pole as well as the South Pole the frigid zone. Then you have the orange color zone, which is the temperate zone, which is both in the northern hemisphere as well as the southern hemisphere. And the torrid zone is in the at the center, that is right next to the equator, both in the northern hemisphere as well as the southern hemisphere. We are first going to look at the frigid zone. Now the frigid zone lies between the Arctic Circle and the North Pole in the northern hemisphere, as you can see in the picture, and in the southern hemisphere it lies between the Antarctic Circle and the South Pole in the southern hemisphere. Now what does frigid mean? Frigid actually means cold, and all these places in the frigid zone are usually covered with snow throughout the year. That is because the sun's rays are slanting, and by the time they reach these poles, they're too far away from the sun, so they are literally cold. So those places experience cooler climates. Now like I said, there is a particular phenomena where in the summer season usually the poles experience that in their summers the sun is still there in the horizon during midnight. Even at midnight you can see the sun there in the sky. And what happens in the winter? The sun never rises during the winter. So this is happening at the poles, and this is usually experienced at the frigid zone. Now the next zone that we are going to look at, this is a climate zone. Please remember, this was there in our climate chapter. Please go back to the video to learn more. If you don't remember about the climate zones, you can please go back and refer to the videos that I've made about it. Now coming back to the temperate zone. The temperate zone is located between the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle in the northern hemisphere, and the Tropic of Capricorn in the and between the equator and the between the Antarctic Circle and the Tropic of Capricorn in the southern hemisphere. Let me repeat that. I sort of just lost my sense there for a second. So where is the temperate zone located? In the northern hemisphere, it is between Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle. And in the southern hemisphere, it is located between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Antarctic Circle. Now what does the word temperate mean? Temperate means moderate. It means in between. It means it is not too hot, not too cold. So the places in the temperate zone usually experience more milder climate, very medium, very pleasant climate. Not very hot, not very cold. And why does that happen? That happens because the sun's rays are not directly coming to these places. They are slanting. The sun's rays are longer, so they are farther away from the sun. And that is why they experience milder and cooler climates. And final zone that we're going to study about today is the torrid zone. Now the torrid zone lies between the equator and the Tropic of Cancer in the northern hemisphere, and in the southern hemisphere it is between equator and the Tropic of Capricorn. Now the regions that lie between this in the zone experience very hot climate, and they experience very hot direct sunlight from the sun. Why? Because it is so close to the sun, and they usually get that midday sun overhead at least once a year. And we have already studied about the overhead sun in the lesson about rotation and revolution. Please go back to that video and try to understand more about it in case you have forgotten. Now what you have to remember is that the region there receives Maximum heat because it is constantly getting throughout the year the direct sunlight from the sun, and hence the zone is called as torrid zone. What does the word torrid mean? Torrid means hot, very hot. But that doesn't decide, though it is supposed to be very hot, it is not necessary that all the places in the zone will be experiencing very hot climate. You have the rainforest as well as the desert region in this region. All right, how does that happen? That happens because if a place is closer to the oceans, you have a lot of oceans in this area. So if the place is closer to the oceans, it is going to experience a lot of water cycle movement happening. So there's going to be a lot of water evaporation, formation of clouds, condensation happening, and then finally there's going to be a lot of rains. So the places that are there closer to these oceans are going to experience nice rainy and rich climate, so they will have a lot of rainforests in that area. But what about the places that are far away from the oceans and do not see that much water cycle happening, that much movement of water cycle happening? So then what is going to happen? They're going to be dry. So that is the basic difference between the topography of these places. That is why you will find different climates in the different regions of the torrid zone. Now today I'm going to stop here. Go back, see this video again, see the videos about rotation and revolution again, learn about the line of illumination again, see how the different latitudes, the position of the latitudes, the position of the axis, the position of the earth during the different seasons, how the seasons are caused, how these latitudes impact climate. All these things you have to go back and go revise once again. These are all interconnected lessons. Please go through the videos once again and understand it very clearly. There are a couple of diagrams which I have showed in this video. Go through them, practice them, learn them by heart. You need these even when you are in your 12th standard, so please don't take them lightly. I'm going to stop here. Enjoy your vacation that is coming up. Thank you.